Alright, so y'all go ahead and do the factoring and the math knowledge question for today. Pause the video, and then once everyone is finished, you can unpause the video, and I'll go over the correct answers. So for the factoring, you're going to want to do remove, replace, reduce. So when you remove the 16, you'll have x squared minus 72x plus 1,296. When you replace and factor, you should have 16x minus 36 times 16x minus 36. Both of those will divide by 4, which will give you 4x minus 9 times 4x minus 9, which you can also write as 4x minus 9 squared. For the math knowledge question, we want to know how much tape she needs to prepare all 8 boxes for shipping. So she's putting 2 strips completely around the box, one going this way and one going this way. So this first one has a length of 18 and then 20 and then 18 and 20. So if you add that up, you get a total of 76. And then if you go the other direction, you have 24, 20, 24, and 20, which is a total of 88. And so you need a total of 164 per box, and we're doing 8 boxes. So that gives you a total of 1,312 inches of tape. Okay, so now we're going to look at lesson 48. We're going to look at powers of trig functions and then perpendicular bisectors. So hopefully after this lesson you'll understand powers of trig functions and perpendicular bisectors. We want to evaluate sine cubed of negative 60 degrees. So what you're going to do here, this is the same thing as finding the sine of negative 60 and then cubing it. So the sine of negative 60 we're in the 4th quadrant, so it's a negative. And then the sine of 60 is square root of 3 over 2. So when you cube this, negative cubed is a negative. Square root of 3 cubed is the square root of 27, which is 3 square roots of 3. And then 2 cubed is 8. And so that's how that would simplify. Okay, looking at the next one, the cotangent squared of 330. So that's the same thing as the cotangent of 330, and then squaring that. So cotangent is the reciprocal of the tangent. So 1 over tangent of 330, and then we're going to square that answer. The tangent of 30 degrees is going to be 1 over square root of 3. And we're in the 4th quadrant, so tangent is negative. So when we do 1 over negative 1 over square root of 3, that's negative square root of 3, and then squared. So negative squared is positive, and square root of 3 squared is 3. So that would be the answer for that one. So that's how you can do powers of trig functions. Alright, we're going to look at another example. We want to evaluate cosecant squared of negative 405 minus tangent squared of 45 degrees. So I'm going to do 2 things in one here. Instead of cosecant, I'm going to make it the reciprocal, which is sine. And then instead of negative 405, if we add 360, that'd make it negative 45. And then we're going to square that. And then we have minus tangent of 45 squared. So the sine of negative 45 degrees, it's in the 4th quadrant, so it's negative, and then 1 over square root of 2. And then the tangent of 45 is 1. So the reciprocal here is going to be negative square root of 2. 1 squared is just 1. And then negative square root of 2 squared is positive 2 minus that 1 gives you an answer of 1. So that would be your answer for that one. Okay, so now we're going to look at your perpendicular bisectors. We have been using the locus definition since lesson 37, and that's where you do the distances equal to each other, square both sides, mark out your x squareds and your y squareds, and then solve for y equals mx plus b. But now we're going to look at the perpendicular bisector method. The line is going to bisect it, and it's going to be perpendicular to it. So you're going to find the perpendicular slope and the midpoint of your 2 points that they give you. And that's going to be using the midpoint formula method because you're going to use the midpoint. So we're going to use the midpoint formula method to find the perpendicular bisector. So you've got to find 2 things. You need your midpoint. So 4 plus 8 is 12, divided by 2 is 6. 2 plus negative 3 is negative 1, and divided by 2 is negative 1/2. And then you need your perpendicular slope. So your slope is 2 minus negative 3, and then 4 minus 8. So 5 over negative 4. And then the perpendicular slope would be a positive 4 over 5. So now you're going to use this slope and this point to find your equation. So y equals mx plus b, negative 1/2 equals mx plus b. Negative 1/2 equals 24 over 5. And then I'm going to get common denominator of a 10, so negative 5 over 10 equals 48 over 10. And then if you solve for b, you'll have negative 53 over 10. And your equation would be y equals m x and then minus 53 over 10. So that's how you can do it instead of using the locus method if you would rather. I actually don't care which method you use. Right now I want you to practice using the midpoint formula method just so that you become more comfortable with it. But once you start doing these on the test, if it says one method or the other, I'm not going to be looking to see. That's going to be up to you as to which method you want to do. And you can do both methods, and either way you should get the same answer. So if you want to do both, just to make sure that you're on the right track, you're more than welcome to do that. Okay, so we're going to look at one more example. And it wants us to write it in general form. So first thing we're going to do is find our midpoint. So 4 minus 2 is 2, divided by 2 is 1. Negative 3 plus negative 5 is negative 8, divided by 2 is negative 4. And then our slope, y minus y over x minus x. And I get 2 over 6, which is 1/3. So our perpendicular slope is negative 3. So y equals mx plus b. Negative 4 equals negative 3 plus b. So our b would equal negative 1. So I get y equals mx plus b. And then we put it in general form. So you need to make your x positive. So we're going to move everything to the left side to make our x positive. So 3x plus y plus 1 equals 0. And that would be your answer there. So some people like the perpendicular bisector method better, using the midpoint formula method. Some people prefer the locus definition method. It's really up to you. But I want you to practice this method just so that you become a little bit more comfortable with it. Okay, so your homework, you do get to omit number 28. So make sure to do the other questions tonight so we can go over any questions you have tomorrow.